Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep, way deep, into a world you probably think you know, but trust me, you don't. Imagine stepping barefoot onto a soft patch of grass. Beneath that very spot, millions of tiny architects craft their intricate cities, invisible to your eye, humming with ceaseless activity. You probably won't survive this, at least not mentally, because the secret life of ants is weirder, wilder, and way more complex than you'd expect. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and don't forget to drop your location and local time in the comments so I know who's staying up with me tonight, geeking out over tiny insect mysteries. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge slowly over soil that feels plain, uneventful, but what you don't realize is just beneath your feet lies a sprawling civilization, one of the largest on Earth by biomass. Ants are everywhere, shaping the world in ways we barely notice. They aerate the soil, recycle nutrients, and even help plants grow. This underground network isn't chaos. It's organized, purposeful, and it's been evolving for over 100 million years. You're literally walking on a planet teeming with life more complex and ancient than our own cities. Historians and entomologists still argue whether ants should be considered the planet's greatest engineers. Unlike architects with blueprints, ants rely on instinct and chemical trails to build their homes, some sprawling across yards, others burrowing deep into deserts. These nests can contain millions of individuals, forming entire ant cities, complete with chambers for nurseries, food storage, and waste disposal. Leaf fragments, soil, even bits of moss become construction materials. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some ants decorate their nests with bits of fungus growing on their walls, kind of like indoor gardens, but way less Instagrammable. You might assume such tiny creatures couldn't maintain order at this scale, but their combined effort shapes the very ground you walk on. Their soil-turning activities even help forests thrive by improving drainage and aeration, making ants crucial gardeners for the environment. And no, you're not imagining ants communicating silently. Their secret language is chemical. They leave invisible trails of pheromones that tell their colony members everything, from follow me to danger ahead. This chemical network is like an ancient underground internet, and the closer you look, the weirder it gets. So next time you feel an ant crawling on you, remember, it might be a tiny architect, builder, or even a soil scientist working beneath your feet. There's a hidden world here, humming with life, that has survived mass extinctions, geological upheavals, and the rise of humans. Yet it remains almost invisible to our everyday eyes, and that's only the beginning. You think you know what a family looks like, right? Parents, kids, some pets, maybe an occasional cat stubbornly ignoring you. But now, imagine a society where thousands, sometimes millions, live as one big family unit with roles so specialized it makes your office hierarchy look like child's play. That's the ant colony for you, a buzzing metropolis of individual minds fused into a collective personality. You slip into this underground world where cooperation isn't just polite, it's survival. Ant colonies often have castes, workers, soldiers, and the famed queen. But this isn't a simple monarchy or democracy. It's a bizarre hybrid where the queen's role defies our usual understanding of leadership. She doesn't bark orders or micromanage. Instead, her presence and pheromones maintain social order. Workers will abandon their personal survival instincts to protect the colony, often sacrificing themselves for the good of the group. Talk about a loyalty contract that's harder to break than your Spotify premium subscription. Historians still argue whether ants evolved complex societies independently or if social behavior emerged several times across insect species. What's fascinating is how these ants communicate their roles and tasks, an almost choreographed dance of biology and chemistry. Your idea of a complicated office email thread pales in comparison to how ants silently coordinate millions of tiny tasks daily. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some ants take babysitting to an extreme. The worker ants will move the larvae around the nest, adjusting their location to control temperature and humidity, an underground nursery with its own climate control system. You might think this level of care is exclusive to mammals, but no, ants got you beat in the meticulous parenting game. And it's not just functional. The nurturing environment influences their development into future workers or soldiers. The colony functions like a superorganism, meaning it behaves like a single living entity with different parts working in sync. It's like a self-healing, self-repairing machine that operates 24/7 with no coffee breaks. If part of the nest is damaged, worker ants immediately start repairs, redirecting traffic and reallocating resources, organizational skills that would impress even the most seasoned project manager. Socially, it's brutally efficient. In some species, older workers shift from risky outside jobs like foraging to safer chores inside the nest as they age. It's the insect version of retiring without even collecting a pension. This division helps colonies survive harsh environments and fluctuating food availability. Watching ants, you realize they have a society profoundly based on cooperation, sacrifice, and roles that fit the collective need rather than individual ambition. Despite centuries of study, entomologists still scratch their heads over exactly how decision-making spreads so seamlessly across billions of tiny brains in one anthill. It's a hive mind, but not in a science fiction sense. It's biological, emergent, and probably one of nature's most elegant puzzles. So as you consider these tiny beings marching single file on the sidewalk, remember that what seems like chaos from your perspective is social order perfected over millions of years. You watch an ant pause, antennae twitching as if it's tuning into a secret frequency. What you don't see is the invisible conversation about to unfold, a worldwide web of chemical signals and subtle touches that ants use to gossip, navigate, and coordinate their empire. This silent dialogue is their lifeline. Imagine a language so complex that no words are spoken, no sounds made, just invisible scents and gentle taps passing information faster than you can blink. The ant's secret weapon is pheromones, chemical messages tailored for every occasion. They lay these scent trails on the ground, forming invisible highways for their colony. When one scout finds food, it sprints back, laying a pheromone trail that attracts dozens of foragers. But these trails are fragile. They fade, shift, and signal time for a detour if the feast runs dry or danger lurks ahead. Historians and biologists alike still argue how ants maintain the delicate balance between pheromone strength and decay, ensuring that their trails never lead the whole colony astray. You'd be surprised to learn that ants have dialects of pheromones, species-specific signatures that prevent intercolony confusion. This chemical identity is crucial during battles, where enemies detect outsiders instantly, sometimes leading to brutal skirmishes. It's like a secret handshake, but one that decides life and death. Interestingly, tactile communication complements these chemical trails. When two ants meet, they kiss with their antennae, exchanging information about colony membership and task status. Imagine tiny diplomats passing notes with their feelers, interpreting each flutter or tap to adjust group behavior. Some species even engage in tandem running, where a knowledgeable ant guides a naive one to a resource, slowing down deliberately for the learner to memorize the route. You thought your morning commute was complicated. Ants have tiny taxi services too. A quirky fact: some ants practice social grooming to spread colony-specific scents. It's a little like everyone wearing the same fragrance. This perfume helps maintain unity, ensuring members recognize each other amid thousands of strangers. At the heart of this chemical communication is a brain no bigger than a sesame seed, yet capable of processing these intricate signals. Neuroscientists marvel at how such simplicity underpins such sophistication. The whole colony behaves almost like one vast sensory system, tuned perfectly to its environment. This silent symphony of scents and touches means ants can respond to threats, find food, and build their communities without noise or chaos. It's a communication strategy evolved over millions of years, refined to near perfection. And as you stare down at a marching column, you see more than insects. You witness a living network, humming with invisible conversations. So next time you try to shoo the tiny trails from your picnic, consider the elaborate silent dialogue you're interrupting. It's not just a march, it's an orchestra of chemical signals playing an ancient, wordless story. You're standing on a planet shared by roughly 20,000 ant species, everywhere but Antarctica, because even ants hate the cold that much. From scorching deserts to lush rainforests, ants have mastered nearly every habitat on Earth, nearly edging out humanity's global footprint in sheer biomass. It's like they set up shop everywhere while we were busy figuring out how to open a can of beans. Ants appear on the fossil record from the Cretaceous period, about 100 million years ago, evolving alongside the rise of flowering plants. Historians still argue whether ants' rise to dominance was a result of coevolution with plants or just their own relentless social success. Either way, their worldwide distribution today is astonishing. If you could pile all the ants on the planet, their combined weight might be roughly equal to all humans. It's a mind-boggling fact that ants could collectively weigh as much as you, your friends, and your entire neighborhood, multiplied by thousands. Tiny, tiny creatures, but a massive presence. A particularly common species, the invasive Argentine ant, has managed to spread across continents, creating supercolonies that stretch hundreds of miles. These supercolonies don't wage territorial wars internally. Instead, they cooperate peacefully despite spanning cities and landscapes. It's like a cross-border alliance with millions of members, all without passports. Biologists remain baffled by how these partnerships form, with some suggesting it's a mix of genetic similarity and environmental factors that blur colony boundaries. You might not realize ants have cultural differences too. Ecologists have studied island ants versus mainland ants, showing behavioral and physiological tweaks adapted to local conditions. It's almost like ants have neighborhoods with their own customs and dialects, evolving in real time. Think about that when you watch a group of ants bustling near your doorstep. Maybe they're representing generations of ancestry arranged by the environment itself. On the fringe of entomology, some scientists propose ants as models for understanding invasive species dynamics, studying how their rapid spread mimics other biological invaders that disrupt ecosystems. It's wild to think your backyard's tiny tenants serve as key ciphers in critter invasion mysteries. Ants don't just survive, they adapt and thrive. Desert ants can navigate blistering heat with built-in thermal resistance, while tropical ants use leaf litter camouflage to disappear from predators. These global survivors owe their success partly to extraordinary navigation skills, using polarized light, landmarks, and even Earth's magnetic field to find their way. You could easily get lost in a crowded mall, but these tiny creatures find home blindfolded. And if you thought ants might just be small, forgettable insects, think again. Their global domination rewrites the narrative of life on Earth, quietly shaping the balance of ecosystems at every turn. So as you look down tonight, the world beneath your feet is a bustling global metropolis, an empire and wilderness rolled into one, humming with life and mystery. You crunch a leaf underfoot and barely notice the world that watches you. Leafcutter ants, one of the most astonishing farmers on Earth, are harvesting that very leaf as raw material for a fungus farm deep underground. Imagine tiny agriculturalists working tirelessly not to eat the leaf itself, but to cultivate a specific fungus that is their real food source. It's a bizarre twist on farming. No tractors, no fertilizers, just instinct and chemistry. Leafcutter ants belong to the genus Atta, and their fungal farming goes back millions of years. They cut fresh leaves, bring them in fragments to their subterranean gardens, and use them as compost to grow a specialized fungus that only they can digest. Historians still argue how this insect-plant symbiosis evolved, but it's one of the few examples of advanced agriculture outside human hands. The fungus feeds the ants, while the ants protect and provide nutrients for their fungal crops in a mutually beneficial relationship. If you think it sounds like a perfect setup, wait for this. Leafcutter ants also farm bacteria on their bodies. These bacteria produce antifungal substances that keep parasitic fungi from invading their gardens. So, you have ants farming fungus farms, which are guarded by bacterial bodyguards. An intricate three-way alliance that's hard to imagine without a nature documentary narrator voice. The fun part? The colony's survival hinges on the health of their fungal gardens. When fungus dies off, the ants are forced to relocate their entire colony. Talk about high-stakes agriculture. One bad harvest can threaten millions of lives underground. These fungal farms operate in temperatures and humidity finely controlled by the ants moving their fungus chambers around, creating their own microclimate. It's like a climate-controlled greenhouse managed by tiny, six-legged gardeners. Beyond the biology, this farming practice offers clues to humans about sustainable agriculture. Scientists study these ant orchards to develop ideas for pest control, fungal disease management, and soil microbiology. You could say leafcutter ants are inadvertently mentoring generations of human farmers in eco-friendly cultivation. On the fringe, some researchers propose that leafcutter ants' farming system might be one of Earth's earliest examples of domestication, pushing back the timeline of agriculture far earlier than what humans accomplished. Think about that. Farming perfected before ancient civilizations, a microorganismic agricultural revolution hidden beneath your feet. So next time you see a leaf-carrying ant, remember it's not just transporting food, it's participating in one of nature's longest-running agricultural enterprises, a testament to evolution's quirky genius and cooperation's power. You watch a line of ants suddenly break formation, clashing with rivals in what looks like a tiny, furious battlefield. Ant warfare is real, brutal, and strangely reminiscent of human conflicts. These tiny warriors deploy strategies that echo military tactics, coordinated attacks, ambushes, even chemical warfare. But instead of generals and shiny medals, it's all driven by pheromones, instinct, and survival. Some species, like the army ants, have nomadic lifestyles where entire colonies embark on raids, overwhelming prey and rival colonies with sheer numbers. These swarms are organized chaos, a living weapon that can strip prey like a biological blender. Historians still argue about whether this aggressive nomadism evolved primarily as defense or offense, but it's undeniably effective. Watching army ants operate is like witnessing a living storm tearing across the forest floor. Then you have the notorious slave-making ants. Yes, they don't just fight, but also kidnap larvae from other species, forcing them to become workers in their own nests. A bizarre practice that reads like insect crime novels. You'd think such behavior was reserved for Netflix thrillers, but it's just ant business as usual. On the other side, soldier ants come equipped like armored tanks, with massive jaws or chemical sprays acting as venomous weapons. Some can even explode, sacrificing themselves in a bizarre process called autothysis, where internal glands rupture, releasing sticky toxins to fend off invaders. It's a grim but effective last stand, a suicide bomber of the ant world. You could say ants take all for one pretty literally. A quirky piece of lore. Certain ants, like the famous exploding Camponotus saundersi, literally shake their bodies violently to spread toxic glue, trapping enemies in sticky death. If you think your neighbor's cat is annoying, imagine a suicidal ant spraying you like bug spray. Ants use sophisticated chemical signals to organize troop movements, deploying reinforcements and retreating strategically. The whole colony adjusts instantly to threats, redistributing resources and manpower. This fluid battlefield command resembles human guerrilla warfare, with rapid, small-scale skirmishes that simmer into larger territorial disputes. Historians debate how much of this is instinct versus learned behavior, but one thing's clear: ant wars have enormous ecological impact, reshaping community structures and even altering species diversity in their habitats. It's a reminder that beneath your feet, tiny dramas of survival unfold daily, complete with strategy, sacrifice, and cunning that defy the tiny size of their soldiers. So, the next time you see ants fighting over crumbs, remember, this is no petty squabble. This is centuries of evolutionary warfare playing out on your kitchen table. You might think ants only interact with their own kind, but they're social butterflies, or rather, social shapeshifters, forming curious alliances with creatures that seem bizarrely mismatched. Ants' relationships with other species are a tangled web of cooperation, exploitation, and mutual dependence that reads like a soap opera set in the insect world. One of the most famous partnerships is with aphids, those tiny green bugs you sometimes crush on your plants. Aphids produce a sugary liquid called honeydew, basically ant candy. In exchange, ants protect these aphids from predators, herding them like livestock. Imagine farmers tending to cows, except these farmers are tiny and their cows are insects producing sweet snacks on demand. Historians still argue how such mutualism evolved, but it's clear the relationship benefits both species. Aphids get bodyguards, ants get dessert. Then there are the fascinating ant plants, or myrmecophytes. These plants evolved structures like hollow thorns and special chambers to house ants inside their bodies. Think of them as botanical apartment complexes. The ants defend the plant ferociously against herbivores and sometimes fertilize it with their waste. It's a botanical real estate deal you didn't know you were missing. Scientists study these partnerships to understand coevolution, a process where species influence each other's biology over millions of years. On the quirky side, some ants farm fungi, but others even farm insects. For example, ants protect butterfly larvae, which offer no benefit in return. Yet ants still babysit these caterpillars by chemical deception. It's like a parasitic lease, where the guest is secretly manipulating the landlord. Weird, right? Ants also host tiny beetles and mites inside their nests. Some peaceful guests, others parasites or commensals feeding on waste or tending to the colony's needs in strange ways. It's a microcosm of biodiversity, a city with citizens ranging from loyal workers to freeloaders. Some ants form partnerships with termites, and even spiders that prey on ants sometimes exploit their chemical signals to sneak close without detection. This interplay reflects nature's complexity, where alliances shift and blur the line between friend and foe on an ongoing evolutionary chessboard. Entomologists are fascinated by these interactions, debating how chemical mimicry and behavioral adaptation allow multi-species communities to persist. There's still so much to unravel about how ants maintain these fragile alliances without letting opportunists take over. So, when you see ants carrying bits of food or wandering near strange insects, remember they might be part of complex deals forged over millennia, dealing with contracts written not in paper, but in chemicals and instincts that govern a secret social world. You stare at the towering queen nestled deep in her chamber, the silent matriarch whose sole purpose is to keep her legacy alive. The queen ant's life is a study in contradictions. She's both royalty and prisoner, revered and reliant. Unlike human monarchs who strut across castles, the queen rarely leaves her nest, yet her presence commands a bustling empire that can last decades. You'll want to lean in close because what happens here defies many of your basic ideas about biology and leadership. The queen's primary job is reproduction. She can lay thousands of eggs daily, sometimes millions over her lifetime, ensuring the colony's survival through generations. But historians still argue about how exactly queens exert control. Some say pheromones suppress worker reproduction, creating a chemical dictatorship, while others suggest a more complex social dance at play. Whether by force or subtle influence, her role is unquestioned. Without her, the colony collapses. Interestingly, not all ants have a single queen. Some species operate under multiple queens, creating vast queen-right colonies. This polygene structure presents challenges in cooperation and resource sharing, but also allows colonies to grow to massive sizes and spread quicker. It's as if the ants wrote a rulebook on power sharing that's far more adaptable than our own political systems. Curiously, queen ants often have wings, at least early on. During mating flights, they soar hundreds of feet to find mates from distant colonies. After this aerial date, queens shed their wings and begin their solitary reign underground, founding new nests. This transition from airborne aristocrat to subterranean sovereign is one of the most dramatic makeover stories in nature. You can't help but marvel at the resilience packed inside that tiny body. If you think queens enjoy a life of luxury, think again. Many queens are guarded by creepy worker nurses who groom and protect her constantly. Failure to maintain the queen's health often spells doom for the entire colony, making them simultaneously fragile and powerful. A quirky bit: in some species, queens can produce eggs that aren't fertilized, creating male ants, or fertilize eggs to produce females, controlling the colony's sex ratio in ways that baffle scientists. This genetic wizardry plays a big role in social evolution. And remember, while the queen dominates her colony, she's still an ant, prey for many predators once she's out in the wild, and sometimes the target of rival queens in colony takeovers. So as you glance down at a peaceful anthill, you're peeking into a kingdom ruled by a single insect, with powers that shape hundreds, thousands, or millions of lives daily. The queen's quiet reign is a testament to nature's delicate balance between individual power and collective strength. You might think ants are just little bugs, but human cultures across the globe have long recognized their significance, embedding ants into myths, legends, and even philosophies. From fierce warriors to tireless workers, ants symbolize everything from industriousness to cunning survival. And if you thought your grandma's stories were old, wait till you hear how ants shaped human storytelling for millennia. In biblical texts, ants are often used as metaphors for wisdom and preparedness. Proverbs famously urges you to "Consider the ants, you sluggard. Consider their ways and be wise," highlighting how ants' work ethic inspired moral lessons on diligence. But the symbolism isn't limited to religious texts. Ancient Greek philosophers observed ants carefully, using them to philosophize on society and hierarchy. Folklore from various cultures portrays ants with mixed feelings. Some Native American tales celebrate ants as teachers of community spirit, while other stories depict them as cunning tricksters, capable of outsmarting larger animals. In African folklore, ants appear as both helpers and challengers, embodying nature's balance. Modern culture hasn't escaped the ant's tiny influence either. Think of that classic animated movie where the ant is the underdog hero, or the idioms we use daily: ants in your pants when you can't sit still, or ant trail to describe busy paths. Ants have also influenced art and literature, symbolizing everything from oppression to teamwork. On the fringe, there are even spiritual beliefs that ants carry messages from ancestors or bring luck and prosperity. While such views aren't widely accepted by science, they reflect humanity's deep-rooted fascination with these creatures. Historians still debate whether ants' portrayal as symbols of community versus individual struggle in literature reflects cultural values or actual observations of their nature. What's clear is ants have a profound place in human storytelling, more layered than you'd expect from tiny, six-legged creatures. As you see an ant crossing your path, you're not just watching a bug, you're witnessing a living symbol, a creature woven into the tapestry of human history and myth. Their invisible presence on Earth has sparked human awe and inspired lessons that echo across time. So, as culture and nature intertwine, ants remind us that even the smallest beings can teach the biggest truths about society and survival. You probably think ants are just tiny blobs of bug juice, but wait until you hear about their superpowers. They might leave you reevaluating your own physical and mental limits. These little guys possess strength, navigation skills, and sensory abilities that would make even the most advanced human technology blush. Seriously, they're like nature's own superheroes. Physically, ants can carry 10 to 50 times their own body weight. Imagine you hoisting a car or lifting a house on your shoulders without breaking a sweat. This strength comes from the unique design of their muscles and exoskeleton, optimized over millions of years. Scientists marvel at the biomechanics behind this power, which defies conventional engineering. Historians and biologists still argue about the precise mechanisms that govern such strength at a microscopic level, but the consensus is clear. Ants are tiny powerhouses. Navigation is another area where ants outshine most creatures. You stare as a lone desert ant traverses blistering sands, somehow returning home using the sun's polarization patterns as a compass. Some ants use landmarks and even count their steps to remember distance, a phenomenon called path integration. It's like having a built-in GPS that's been fine-tuned for millions of years, but without any batteries or satellites. A quirky tidbit. Some ants can detect Earth's magnetic field, essentially giving them a built-in magnetometer. Scientists are fascinated by how this works, since even your smart gadget can't do this without complex technology. It's a biological mystery still under investigation, with theories ranging from magnetite crystals in ant brains to quantum effects. Ants' sensory antennae are more than just feelers. They're multifunctional organs packed with receptors for smell, touch, and even humidity. These combined senses allow ants to interpret their environment in incredibly detailed ways. It's like having 6 extra sets of eyes, ears, and noses all at once. In terms of behavior, some species demonstrate remarkable problem-solving skills, from building rafts in floods to solving maze puzzles in labs. This raises debates about insect cognition, how much is instinct, and how much hints at emergent intelligence. Neuroscientists still argue over the cognitive capacity of ant colonies, with some proposing the colony itself acts as a superbrain, a collective intelligence far beyond the sum of its parts. So watching ants crawl over a leaf might seem mundane, but those little guys carry the secrets of superhuman strength, navigational genius, and sensory prowess. Their superpowers are not just cool biology, they're keys to understanding evolution's creative genius. You might think ants are nothing but tiny pests invading your kitchen, but this relationship is far more complicated than a simple love-hate story. Humans and ants have shared hundreds of millions of years, sometimes as adversaries, sometimes as accidental partners, and often in uneasy truce. Your backyard battles with ants barely scratch the surface of this complex interaction. In many societies, ants are considered pests because they raid food stores, invade homes, and even damage crops. Controlling ants has become an industry unto itself, with a dizzying arsenal of baits, sprays, and traps designed to outwit their sophisticated societies. Historians still argue how humans first began efforts to coexist or combat ants. Some suggest early agriculture disrupted natural ant habitats, leading to chronic conflicts. But ants aren't just pests, they're often ecological partners. In agriculture, ants help by preying on herbivorous pests, indirectly protecting crops. Some plants have even evolved to encourage ant visitors by producing nectar specifically for them, promoting natural pest control. It's like a farm-tending security team working 24/7 in the soil. Your relationship with ants also extends into medicine and technology. Compounds extracted from some ant venoms show promise in advanced wound healing and antibacterial therapies. Meanwhile, roboticists study ant behavior to design decentralized, self-organizing machines inspired by their collective intelligence. These tiny creatures are the biological blueprint for swarm robotics, an emerging field that could revolutionize how machines work together. On the quirky side, some cultures celebrate ants as food. Yes, edible ants are a delicacy in parts of Asia, Africa, and South America, providing protein rich in nutrients. They feature in traditional dishes and modern haute cuisine alike, proof that ants can be more friend than foe. Still, the debate continues. Some ecologists warn that human urbanization threatens ant biodiversity, disrupting ecosystems worldwide. Scientists and policymakers argue about balancing pest control with environmental conservation, creating a tug-of-war between extermination and coexistence. As you watch ants foraging on your floor, realize they are part of a vast and ancient dance with humanity. Sometimes enemies, sometimes allies, always intertwined. This complex relationship reminds you that even the smallest creatures wield a profound influence on human life and culture. You might never have guessed it, but ants are climate change's unsung prophets, quietly sounding alarms long before scientists can measure warming trends or carbon spikes. These tiny creatures react swiftly to subtle environmental shifts, making them invaluable indicators of ecosystem health. It's not just ice melting at the poles or floods in distant countries. Ants give us a visceral, ground-level update on how life on Earth is adjusting to the new reality. Studies reveal ants changing their behavior as temperatures rise, shifting foraging times to cooler hours, altering diet preferences, and relocating nests to more hospitable microclimates. Some species are migrating uphill or poleward, mirroring patterns seen in birds and mammals. Historians and ecologists still debate whether ants act more like passive sentinels or active participants in climate-driven ecosystem change. But one thing is clear: their responses offer early warning signs for larger ecological cascades. Because ants influence soil quality and plant communities through their activities, their changing populations ripple through entire habitats. Fewer ants can mean slower nutrient cycling, affecting plant growth and soil stability. It's like ants are small but mighty ecosystem engineers whose fortunes tell the bigger story of environmental health. A quirky finding: colonies under climate stress sometimes shrink or adjust their social structures by changing reproduction rates or worker roles, a survival strategy that hints at remarkable plasticity. These tiny adaptations could inspire human approaches to resilience in a warming world. Scientists now monitor ant communities worldwide to track environmental impacts precisely because of their rapid responses and ecological importance. This approach is shifting conservation efforts from reactive to proactive, designing strategies before devastation takes hold. Imagine ants as nature's biosensors, silently signaling danger before it becomes measurable by human tools. At the same time, ants' soil-tilling behaviors help retain carbon in the ground and support plant ecosystems, making them unsung allies in fighting climate change. They aren't just warning signals, but active participants helping buffer ecosystems from the worst impacts. So tonight, when you see an ant crawling past, remember this tiny creature plays a massive role in the planet's health story. In their small steps, you can hear the urgent whispers of change, the natural world's subtle SOS that we can no longer afford to ignore. You might think ants have no relevance to futuristic science, but they're actually the pioneers of cutting-edge research that blurs the lines between biology, technology, and design. Scientists look to ants not just to understand nature, but to inspire innovations in robotics, artificial intelligence, and sustainable architecture. Ants' collective wisdom and efficiency offer a blueprint for solving human problems in surprising ways. Ant colonies demonstrate decentralized problem-solving in real time. No CEO, no central control, just thousands of individuals coordinating seamlessly. This emergent intelligence fascinates computer scientists trying to develop algorithms for swarm robotics, where fleets of tiny drones work together without a pilot. Historians still debate how accurately ant behavior can be mimicked technologically, but no one disputes the inspiration they provide. On the robotics front, researchers have built ant-like robots capable of forming complex structures, searching for survivors after disasters, or exploring environments unsafe for humans. These machines mimic ant navigation, communication, and teamwork, illustrating how millions of years of natural evolution can inform modern design. The architecture of ant nests also inspires human building techniques. Their intricate tunnels optimize ventilation, temperature control, and resource distribution, natural engineering principles that architects seek to replicate for energy-efficient constructions. Some universities study leafcutter ants' fungal farms as models for circular agriculture systems, aiming to minimize waste and maximize productivity. A fringe idea some scientists explore is the potential for ants to model decentralized decision-making in AI, highlighting flexibility, adaptability, and resilience. The grotesquely complex yet elegantly simple social structures of ants offer a real-world laboratory for designing smarter, more responsive machines and networks. On a quirky note, one project even involves biologists working with artists to create living sculptures where ants move materials to form art pieces, blending nature with human creativity in unexpected ways. It's like ants co-authoring the future of tech and art. So as ants toil away beneath your feet, remember they're more than just insects. They're living inspirations for tomorrow's breakthroughs. Their ancient mysteries seed innovations that could shape how we live, work, and build in the centuries ahead. You might think ants have revealed all their secrets after centuries of study, but their biggest mystery remains tantalizingly out of reach. Despite advances in biology, ecology, and technology, entomologists still grapple with questions that keep the wonder of ants alive. What makes these tiny creatures tick at such a grand scale? How does their collective mind emerge, and what unseen forces govern their world? One puzzle is how decentralized colonies make complex decisions without a leader directing each move. It's a phenomenon called emergent behavior, where simple rules at the individual level lead to sophisticated group actions. Historians and scientists still argue about the precise neural and chemical mechanisms enabling this. Some propose that colony-wide intelligence arises from feedback loops and chemical gradients, but the details remain elusive. Another mystery is ants' longevity and adaptability. Queens in some species can live for decades, extraordinary for such small insects, while workers sacrifice themselves continuously. How genes and epigenetics regulate this lifespan divide is still being investigated, with potential insights for aging research. Ant species diversity also puzzles scientists. How did so many forms arise, coexisting sometimes in the same habitat, yet avoiding direct competition? Niche partitioning, evolutionary innovation, and environmental pressures all play a part. But the full story is incomplete. On the fringe, some researchers explore ant consciousness, a controversial idea questioning whether insect societies exhibit collective awareness or feelings. While mainstream science remains cautious, such inquiries push boundaries of how we define intelligence and life. Quirky still, certain ants practice funeral rites, carrying dead colony members to designated spaces. Is this mere instinct or the rudiments of social culture? We don't know yet, but it hints that ants may share more in common with humans than we appreciate. As you reflect on this hidden world beneath your feet, you realize ants are not just tiny bugs, but a gateway into nature's most profound enigmas. Questions about cooperation, survival, and intelligence that echo far beyond their size. So on that note, the mystery of ants continues, one of Earth's smallest wonders with the grandest secrets, patiently waiting for curious minds like yours to keep exploring. Now, as your eyes begin to grow heavy and your mind drifts toward rest, imagine the gentle hustle of the ant world slowing down for the night. The once busy tunnels, teeming with life and ceaseless activity, soften into the quiet hum of slumber. Tiny legs cease their marching. The scent trails fade gently into the earth, and the queen rests, serene and steady in her chamber. Envision the soft earth above, cradling these ancient architects, as the moon's pale light filters through leaves, casting a cool, comforting glow over their hidden cities. Breathe slowly, match your breath to the gentle rhythm of an unseen colony's pulse, the steady, peaceful heartbeat of life continuing beneath the surface, out of sight, but never truly gone. The ant's world, filled with cooperation and mystery, fades softly into the background, a whisper just beyond perception, reminding you that even in the smallest corners of the earth, life moves in beautiful, intricate patterns. Allow this quiet complexity to lull you, comforting in its order and resilience. In this calm, you feel a quiet connection, a shared existence, a mutual understanding between you and these tiny beings who have endured eons, quietly shaping worlds without fanfare. Let the softness of the night and the patience of their hidden world soothe you. Dream of those invisible cities and invisible lives, and know that somewhere beneath your feet the mystery endures, wrapping you in a subtle embrace of ancient life. Rest now, gently cradled by the night and the endless wonder of the natural world.